Hello, everyone, and we're going to go over the fire disaster training in Therap. We've had a couple of issues, just some simple things. So I just wanted to go over those. So first off, just a couple of reminders. Fire drills are to be completed monthly. Disaster drills and other drills are to be completed in addition to the fire drill quarterly. And it can be accident, bomb threat, power failure, severe weather, life-threatening injury, illness, missing pertinent person, a maintenance emergency, and any other scenarios that you can think of that a person may be lacking. So maybe it's someone is taking money from them, even if it's a small amount. Maybe you want to see what they would do in that kind of situation. Just whatever would benefit the person, and maybe you, if you want to see if they know how to do something, if they're able to. So there's so many options. Also, fire extinguishers should be charged annually and inspected, and smoke detectors and CO2 detectors should be checked at least monthly. And once those batteries go out and you hear that beeping, you need to have them changed right then. If you have questions about where to get your fire extinguisher inspected, we use Acme Fire and Safety Equipment. I don't know the price. You would have to call them. That is their phone number. And they are on Wasatch Avenue. You can also Google. If you need the information, just let me know and I can send it to you. But those should be done. I've seen so many people, they just have, the one maybe they bought it from Walmart or wherever they got it. It has to have a tag that it was certified, and there's little holes punched for the date that it was inspected. So that is definitely needed. We want to make sure that is, and you should have one on each level of the home. And then also those carbon monoxide and smoke detectors should be on each level as well in the house. So I'm going to make sure that those are done. So for fire drills, we want to make sure that they don't last longer than 3 minutes. And if they are to go over 3 minutes, let your home supervisor know. And that's very important because we need to find a better way to get them out of the house, to get those times lessened. Because if it goes over 3 minutes, then obviously there's that smoke inhalation, just the fire in general. So we want to make sure that those numbers are down. And we want to know how long it took. So if it was less than a minute, I know in Therap, and we'll go over that in just a second, it doesn't give you an option for seconds. So we want you to put the time in seconds in the comments because we want to see that it was less than a minute, how many seconds, because we go through that data and see, is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Staying the same? So those are important to know there. All right, so let me pull up my Therap here. All right. So I've logged into the test account. So it's just like your account as a provider. And just like normal, we go to ISP Data New, our client, and then we're going to go down to the fire disaster training drill. So these are actually copied off of the forms that you were using before. So it shouldn't be any different. It looks a little different because it's on a different platform. But as far as the questions, all that stuff, it came directly from the form that you were using before. So again, make sure you have the correct date. And then, like it says, once a month for the fire drill, quarterly for the other, and then make sure you're documenting monthly. So at least one of these should be done a month of the fire drill, and then quarterly adding that other drill. I know it gets difficult sometimes, but we want to make sure that we're getting those in there. And if you're having any issues, please let us know. So like I said before, we have our beginning and end times, and this is where a lot of people are messing up. So I'm getting times. I don't know if they're making up the times, because I know on some of the programs, the time does not necessarily matter. On this one, it does. So we want to make sure that we're specifying the proper time that it is. So if you're doing it at 4 a.m. in the morning, we want to see 4 a.m. in the morning. And then specifying the time that it ended. So if it was, less than a minute, you can go in here and put 4. And then down here, you can specify in the comments if it was only 45 seconds or however many seconds it was. So up here, just make sure that you're putting the correct time with the AM and the PM and not just making up something. Location, you can specify if it's outside of the home, which you can absolutely do other places. If you're outside of the home, obviously we want kind of a specific location. If you were in a store, if you were at the park, and those are good ways to test out those different disaster drills and other kind of drills. We want to see them out in the community as well, because obviously not every emergency is going to happen in the home and in awake hours. So we want to see some things kind of change up. We don't want to see the same time over and over again, the same place. It's getting warmer, so take advantage of those warm days. If you're out and about and you're in the store, kind of go, what would happen if you couldn't find me? Or just kind of some kind of scenario. What would you do if the store caught on fire and they had to evacuate? Because testing out those skills in other places is helpful as well, because like I said, it's not always going to be at home where an emergency happens. And that kind of gives you more of a wide range to do those kind of, if there was severe weather, if it's lightning, what would you do? So just using your imagination and specifying, if you were in the community or not. And then different times during the day, because obviously fires are not going to just be like, or emergencies aren't going to be like, oh, well, we're going to make sure they're awake before we catch the house on fire or whatever. We want to see what they would do and how they would handle it in the middle of the night when they're dead asleep. So, like I said, it's the same questions as the other one. It just specifies, what kind of fire, what kind of drill was conducted. If it was conducted properly, if it was, you can specify yes in the score here. If it was not conducted completely properly, if it was maybe just partially, or it wasn't followed, if there's training needed, that's when you would hit the no and then specify in the comments what kind of training was needed. Additional training giving after the drill, define in the comments. So if you did the fire drill and this was one of the times that you decided to do a different one, specify what it was. If it was severe weather, specify what kind of severe weather. What were they doing before the activity? So were they sleeping, playing games? Did they need assistance? And I know that most of the people we serve sometimes have issues evacuating on their own. And of course, you're going to have to assist in some way or another, whether it's verbal, hands-on. These are good to know, because if you have a person that you have to hands-on assist and throw them over your shoulder and get them out of the house, if they were to go to respite, or if they had someone else come in, or if we had to come in for an emergency, we would better know how to assist that person. So I know it seems redundant and it seems stupid to ask this when we have people that are in wheelchairs and other things, but this also helps us to make our health and safeties and specify them to the person of what assistance may be needed, because they do go into respite. If something happens to you and we have someone coming to take care of them, if we have to come in an emergency, we're going to know what assistance we may have to give in certain situations. So we want to know kind of what the scenario was. And then if you discussed anything before them, so were they aware of what was going to happen, or was this just sporadic, spur of the moment thing? If there is an alternate route taken, so this is not always going to be a yes, obviously, if they just go out the same way. But again, we want to see those different routes and different ways to think about things. Because if they're doing the same thing over and over again, and that way is not able, so maybe a tree fell in their bedroom window and they're not able to get out of the way or out of the house that way. They need to know and make sure that they know of other ways to get out of the house. So doing that alternate route is very important for them and everybody else. And that's also good if you are in a store, so they can learn how to notice emergency exits, and obviously don't go out the doors, but you can do a scenario where you ask them, hey, if there was a fire, if something was happening, find the closest emergency exit and have them take you to it. What was the response to the training drill? Explain in the comments. So if we have a person, just kind of what their thoughts were. Maybe they don't have anything to say. Maybe they thought it was dumb and they're tired of doing them monthly. Just kind of whatever their response was. Maybe they didn't do anything. They sat there. Maybe they tried to put their shoes on before they exited the house. And then we have our other, so we can add any additional information that wasn't covered above that you may want to add. So I have a really good, I'll pull it up for you. So this is what our reports look like when we run them. You can see it shows us the beginning time, end time, and just kind of what happened with the drill and everything. So I want to show you this because this was really good. And I can send you copies if you want, if you have any questions. And they had some really good fire drills. So the first one here was the person and them talked about what they would do if there was a power failure and they weren't home at the time. So they did this in the home, but they talked about scenarios if they weren't in the home, which is good. Because, you know, power failures can happen anywhere, especially when we have weather like we did last weekend. You never know. I know some people around the city lost power, so you never know what's going to happen. So she said that she would get a flashlight, and if it was night, but if it was during the day, she would go ahead and read her book because she couldn't watch TV. So not only did she say how she would prepare by getting a flashlight, she's like, well, I will just continue reading because there's no TV. So she asked where the flashlight was. She didn't know. So that's really good to know, because if you just assume people know where things are and you get to the point where you don't. So this is good. She knew she didn't know where the flashlight was. So that gives it time to retrain and show them where the flashlight is. Make sure you have batteries, all that good stuff. And then, let's see. And then she checked to see if it worked, and then she found out that it still worked. So, you know, if you have a flashlight and you haven't used it in over a year, checking on those batteries, it's not something we think about all the time. So when we do these drills, we can think about, okay, what would I need in a case of emergency? And that reminds us to go check on these kind of items that we typically don't use every day. If you do a fire drill, like, hey, let me go check my fire extinguisher. Let me check my smoke detector. She just specified where she was, and let's see. They also went over the fire drill, so what they would do. She said she would go upstairs. So talking things out is fine too. They don't necessarily have to just jump out windows. We don't want anybody jumping out a window because it's not safe, but you know, can they open their window? Can they take the screen out? Would they know how to do those things? So in the comments, she put that she knows where all the flashlights are, especially the ones in her bedroom. She also knows that it works and has good batteries. She'll need it if the lights go out in her room, and if she decided to tell She also decided to tell her where the fire extinguishers were in case that she needed to know and might have forgotten. So that's something, making sure that your person knows where the fire extinguishers are, and making sure they know where the evacuation plan is. These things that we may not think about every day, and we know where they are, but sometimes the clients don't. Sometimes they don't remember. So those are important things to go over when you're doing your fire drills. All right, so, and you can see the times, it tells us the duration, so 12 minutes. And this could be the whole thing. So it wasn't necessarily like 12 minutes for the fire drill, probably took 12 minutes for the whole thing. So that's one thing I would suggest for them, is to specify how much of that time was taken evacuating the house. So we want to see those numbers, how long it took to get out of the house, because all we see is the minutes. And if you're doing multiple things in those minutes, then they start to add up. Let's see here. Making sure that we... So here's a good example of that. She started the drill at 10:53. And let's see. She said what they were doing, the alarm went off. And then down here, she said that they were out of the house in 33 seconds. And then they got to a safe place and followed what was supposed to do during the fire drill. So although the time completion was 3 minutes, she specified that it was 33 seconds to get out of the house. And those are those numbers that we want to see. And then down in the additional comments, they just have 3 of her fire extinguishers have been tagged and ready for use. 1 in the kitchen, 1 upstairs bathroom, 1 downstairs laundry room. All smoke alarms work, and so does the CO2 monitored. Now, I'm not saying that you have to put that in everything, but if you, it's something I want you to remember, because we do check those things when we come in for our monthly our monthly monitorings. So just remembering that is good. So this one, she was taking a nap, so that's good. We want to see them sleeping, doing all kinds of other things. This one took 43 seconds. And then afterwards, they talked about the COVID-19 flu and how to keep themselves safe. So that's another good example of things you can talk about as far as safety and advocacy. They talked about COVID and things, just ways they can keep themselves safe. So just using this time to not only inform the client of things, but also inform yourself of maybe, what you need to work on. So you can use this in order to test the client and see what they actually know. Like, do they know how to put out a stove fire? Do they know what to do if they clothes catch on fire? Stop, drop, and roll. Just things in our health and safety, that things we may not experience every day, so we're not sure of the answers. And just, if you need the examples, we can give you them. There's a whole bunch of questions on the health and safety that would be good to know as far as, fire safety goes. Do they know not to eat food that's been left out? Or do they know how to recognize if food is spoiled? Things like that are good to kind of help interact with the clients to see what they do and don't know. Because if we don't know, then how can we help them? And that's, good learning opportunities. So if they don't know how to properly wash their hands before eating, that's something we may need to work on. So with all that in mind, we just want to make sure that we are doing those. If you need ideas besides these, I think these are all listed on the sheet itself in Therap. Or if you even have questions like, hey, does this work? We're more than willing to talk it through. I know sometimes doing the same thing over and over again gets boring. So putting those extra things that are just helpful is a lot better. So if you have any questions, let us know. We will be keeping an eye, and anybody who's still not doing well, we'll be reaching out to you individually with the fire drills and just to work together to see how we can make it better. If it's over 3 minutes or if you're having issues, like it's taking an extra long time for you to get your client out of the home, please let your supervisor know so that we can help you come up with different, ways that maybe we can get them out. We had one person who they couldn't get their client out of the home and they got mad because every time they thought they were leaving and getting into the car when they did fire drills, and we're like, hey, just let them get in the car and drive down the road. If that gets them out of the house, that's fine. Whatever kind of works to help get them out that front door. All right. If you have questions, let me know. Talk to you later. Bye. Talk to you later.